Elon Musk comes out in favor of a carbon tax globally, and well, he was met with disagreement. Now, before we get into this, I want to say, because there's going to be a thing at the bottom of the official global warming, climate change, what the United Nations sees as it. I'm not denying any sort of climate change. Before anyone jumps down my throat or in the comments, I'm not denying that there is climate change. Climate change is occurring. It's happening, and it has been happening for millions and millions and millions of years. Now, what is in contest, and some people are saying, well, maybe this isn't as accurate, the predictions that we've been making, and perhaps some of the data doesn't suggest that there is a catastrophe just around the corner. Now, Elon Musk taking to Twitter on the weekend to say the only action needed to solve the climate change is a carbon tax, and this is in response to Farzad on Twitter that put together this video of him speaking and talking about specifically this.
What I'm going to talk about today is what is needed to address the climate crisis. What actions can we take that will accelerate the transition out of the fossil fuel era? So there's a certain amount of carbon that is circulating through the environment. So it's going into the air, getting absorbed by plants and animals, and then going back into the air. And this carbon is just circulating on the surface. And this is fine, and it's been doing that for millions, hundreds of millions of years. The thing that's changed is that we've added something to the mix. So this is what I would call the turd in the punch bowl. We added all this extra carbon to the carbon cycle, and the net result is that the carbon in the ocean's atmosphere is growing over time. It's much more than can be absorbed by the ecosystem. It's really quite simple. We're taking billions of tons of carbon that's been buried for hundreds of millions of years and is not part of the carbon cycle, taking it from deep underground and adding it to the carbon cycle. The result is that a steady increase in the carbon in the atmosphere and in the ocean, which doesn't look like much if you look at it on this chart, but when looked at in the context of history, it actually looks like this.
And that would look quite alarming. It would if you're looking at this through the context of history. Now, he said a lot there about the carbon cycle and how for hundreds of millions of years, this carbon was not part of the cycle. Now, what's implied there is if the carbon becomes part of the cycle, that this is going to be astronomical. It's going to destroy the planet. There's going to be no possibility of life in the future, and as well as the oceans rising. If in the future we come out of the Pleistocene ice age, there is a chance that the polar caps will melt. Now, what most people don't realize is that there was a time, large part of Earth's history, where there were no polar ice caps. But that is, we're not going to get into that. I'll show you this graph though, and this would look alarming because this is the CO2 over the past couple 100 million years. And this part in particular does seem alarming until you look at the same graph but zoom way out, and things don't look quite as alarming as you think. And there's not much of a correlation between temperature and CO2 in this graph. Now, this is data going back 650 billion years, I believe, and the time scale, geological time scale, all the way to the Precambrian era. So the period, and this would be when life began on Earth. Now, you take that with that what you will, but largely the models that are predicting catastrophe have been very wrong, and the models that are based on this kind of data have been a lot more accurate to predict other things. Now, carbon taxes are, of course, inflationary, and this is something that we've been learning here in Canada, as Justin Trudeau has implemented carbon taxes in this country, and it's largely been hurting farmers. It's largely been hurting the average person. Most people don't, and in the calculations, a lot of the calculations are left without talking about the compounding effect of carbon taxes. If you tax the farmers, immediately the food prices go up, but then if you tax the people that move the food to you, well, that's going to bring the price of transport up, which inevitably brings the price of transporting those products up. So a lot of the inflation that we're seeing here in Canada is not just from the government printing all the money, it's also from the government taxing things, especially with this compounding carbon tax. Now, this is where Elon Musk in his video gets into his advocacy for the carbon tax.
The solution, obviously, is to remove the subsidy. So that means we need to have a carbon tax, and to make it something which is neither a left nor a right issue, we should make it probably a revenue neutral carbon tax. So this would be a case of increasing taxes on carbon, but then reducing taxes in other places. So maybe there would be a reduction in sales tax or VAT and an increase in carbon tax, so that only those using high levels of carbon would pay an increased tax.
Yeah, we've heard all of this before. We've always, just GST is just coming for a limited amount of time. We've also heard the income tax after the First World War. That was only coming for a limited amount of time. When these taxes get introduced, especially when they have the fervor of someone like Elon Musk, they're not going away. They're not going away. And we have a political situation in Canada where the carbon tax is absolutely detrimental to the public. And well, this is why the Conservative Party is running largely on getting rid of that tax. Now, I did put it out there, incredibly disappointed by this awful take from an otherwise intelligent man. Most people in this sphere, the sphere, and I'd like to include Elon Musk in the sphere of people that are looking for truth, looking for the truth. More and more people are coming out against this climate alarmism narrative, but of course, Elon Musk has an incentive in this case, and the incentive would be the electric car company that he has. And I know right now, electric cars are not faring that well. We saw Ford really reeling things back. We also saw in many places in North America over this winter, this is special winter where we had a cold snap in all of Canada, Alberta, and the rest of the provinces in the middle of Canada through the prairies. Really felt it, especially people who owned electric cars. A lot of people being stranded. Batteries just don't operate, and people are starting to wise up with these electric cars. And I'm a technician, so I can tell you straightforward. Yeah, when people are buying a car and then 8 years later they have to buy a brand new battery for the car that costs $20,000, $30,000, it's way out of the price range for something that's supposed to be a maintenance item on an automobile. And this is where I think a lot of the motivation for Elon Musk comes forward. Now, he did say, and I'll make sure to put this one out there, we should not, for example, impose draconian laws on farmers or make citizens uncomfortable by limiting air conditioner usage. Now, I think that's a bit of sarcasm there. Keep tax revenue constant, but shift it to tax what is probably bad CO2, just like alcohol and cigarettes are taxed more than fruits and vegetables. Now, we're going to see more alcohol tax on April 1st here in Canada. There's no shortage of taxes going up here in Canada, and here's an advocate for more taxes. But here's the thing. I had to reply to this. Oh, but that's exactly what they'll do. And now you've signed off on what will be an indulgence tax not seen since the days of Martin Luther. Of course, this it's unbelievable. But there are things that can be done on the environmental front. So I saw this over the weekend as well by Playteaux on Twitter saying, I'm good with my tax dollars being spent on this. And this is another initiative to do something for the environment.
The person who invented the garbage salvage ship is truly a genius. This ship can convert garbage into electrical energy. Only 1,200 of these ships are needed to clean the global oceanic garbage. It is France's Manta catamaran. The ship's design resembles a manta ray. As the ship sails, it collects garbage within a depth of 1 meter and a width of 46 meters, using 2 conveyor belts and a large net at the rear. Once the garbage is collected, it is sent to a waste recycling plant for sorting. Metals, glass, and aluminum are sent back to land for recycling, while plastics are shredded, compressed, and transferred to an energy conversion unit. The heart
I love how they rebranded an incinerator to be called an energy transfer transfer unit. We're gonna transform it into energy, absolutely. But I do like to see stuff like this. I'm guessing this isn't such a big priority for the environmentalist I wrote on Twitter, because it actually addresses an issue and provides a workable solution. As an ecological guy, I'd like to see more of this, please. Let's see a lot less of the carbon tax, especially when it's. We can blind. I mean, you can totally see why there would be an advocacy for this from Elon Musk. It would largely benefit him financially, and that's kind of transparent. I know that he cares about the environment, but let's get past some of this alarmism. This is more in the direction, we should be more in the direction of doing real workable solutions. Let's clean our air and our water. Let's not go after carbon, an element that's part of a building block of life. Anyway, we'll see you in the next one. Leave a comment. Keep on trucking.